What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Good Wolf Project. This is Jerry Scarlato. I'm here with Cassie Ray, and we're going to talk to you about mostly mental toughness and being able to improve your mindset about mostly hard things. I think is what the majority of today's questions seems to be about. So today's a Q&A episode. I used to call these coach talk episodes. So I would have a coach on, we would answer some questions. That's pretty much what we're doing. So maybe we keep calling it coach talk, or maybe we call it Q&A. I don't know. We'll figure that part out.
Coach Talk, Q&A,
That's- there we go.
subtitle, Q&A.
Something to that effect. Perfect. So today we're going to answer, we have 3 questions today. Most of these were taken from athletes that Cassie works with at Northern Kentucky University, where she is a strength coach for a handful of sports. And I think these are all very important questions because not only do they very much pertain to athletes, but they also very much pertain to anybody working, anybody alive, anybody striving to do something in life. And if you're listening to this, then I assume that that's you. So this is going to be very important. So some of the questions are based around they're asked in a way that it pertains to sports or something to that effect, but for sure we'll relate it to regular life, if you will,
Sure.
as well, because all of it is very, very relevant. My belief is our society right now is just very touchy feely. And that's why, again, I believe that this is so important because a lot of us could use a lot more straight talk. And I think that that's what a lot of these questions are really about is how do I deal with somebody who's, well, we'll get to some questions here in a second, but I feel like that's what a lot of it is about is kids are getting, and adults do this too, they're getting into the world where they're getting pushback and they're like, oh, how do I deal with this pushback?
But no
Well,
one's teaching them
yeah,
how.
yeah,
Or they're just avoiding it because the ever so popular topic of it's uncomfortable, so we'll just avoid it.
yes. It's uncomfortable, we'll avoid it, just work around it, worry about your mental health. I hate with all of my heart. I don't hate many things. I hate that concept of mental health, not because psychological dysfunction is not a real thing, because it is for sure. Like people definitely have. I've had depression before in my life, and a lot of people go through depression and extreme anxiety and all of that. But this category of mental health that has popped up out of thin air over the last, I'll say 5 to 7 years, is a different thing. And it's really revolves around dealing with hard shit. It's like because we're not teaching people how to deal with hard shit, whenever they are confronted with it, and they're like, "Oh, this is hard and it hurts my head, and now I feel bad about myself." Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, just worry about your mental health though. So anyway, I could go down the rabbit hole. So let's be more constructive and answer some questions. Why don't we do
Okay.
that?
All right. So the first question is, how do I push through a tough workout
Okay, that's a
or
pretty good one
or
to start
practice or things like that? Yeah, as we're talking about pushing through hard things.
with.
So this question to me is when it could be twofold. So some of those practices where or workouts where the coach is just either the goal of the workout is to push you out of your comfort zone, or maybe it's something where you've been working up to lifting really heavy weights and it's something you're like, oh gosh, like you're looking at the numbers that you have to squat or you're looking at the numbers you have to bench, you're like, I don't know if this is going to happen. You know, you're working out for a full hour. Um, and I think that kind of for me answers the question is when you go into it already thinking that it's going to be hard and thinking that, oh gosh, like coach was pissed yesterday, she's going to make us run, or we lost that game, coach is going to, make us drill this and that over and over and over again. If you already start going into that, then you're probably already in bad shape. So if you go into a workout knowing that you have conditioning, knowing you have stuff that maybe you don't enjoy or you know is hard, at least personally, of course, I like hard workouts are hard. They're probably designed that way. And most of the time, coaches aren't using it as a punishment. They're using it as something, as maybe they saw you break down at the end of a game and they're trying to now work through and build resiliency to not let that happen again in a game because they know you have the capability of working through it. You just weren't able to work through that particular time in adversity. So the other goal of a lot of those workouts too, especially I'm speaking from like strength conditioning, is going back to if you go into it thinking like, oh, that's a lot of weight, and you're just looking at the number and it looks like a really big number, then you're probably not going to be able to lift it. But most of the time, these kids are surprised and they're like, oh, wow, yeah, it wasn't as hard as I thought. So I think the whole thing about going into a tough workout, or maybe you get to the point of a tough workout, is you just got to think about it differently. And that's a whole, I think that's not just an easy thing to do. Like, oh, flip the switch. Now, ultimately, you'd build to that point. Like, oh, crap, this is hard. But you know, as long as you think of, if you think of pushing through that hard workout, what are you going to accomplish on the other side? I think is what you truly, really try to have to think about it that way.
So I love the path you took on this because I had a completely different path in mind, which I'll mention in a second. So there's twofold here. There's one where you're creating the hardness in your mind, and then there's two that is the actual hardness that is happening. And what you're talking about, I would argue, is 80% of the problem. Because what we do is, and I'm just reiterating what Cassie just said, is we tell ourselves in our mind how hard this thing is going to be, whether that's a workout, whether that's a work project, whether that's a conversation you have to have, whether that's whatever it is. And I repeat, all of our anxiety is developed and caused by that, by the future casting of what could go wrong. All of our anxiety, almost, maybe it's not 100%, but it's pretty damn close to what could happen. It was Mark Twain that said something to the effect of, I've lived 1,000 failures in my mind or 1,000 nightmares in my mind, none of which have actually come to fruition. So we create most of our problems in our head. We create hardness in our head. We create the challenge in our head. And to your point, when we do that, most of the time, we make it harder than what it actually is. So, and this is not easy, especially when you are of the habit of doing that. And that's important to understand, is your current cycle of looking at something and thinking about how hard it is not, it's just what you currently do. So you can change what you currently do at any time, but you have to choose to change it. So the next time you look at something or you're thinking about something that's coming up and you're like in it, and whether that's an hour away or a day away or a week away or whatever, and you're like, oh, this is going to be hard. This is going to be challenging. I'm getting so anxious about this. Stop yourself and literally just, and this is a very trendy, whatever, like thing to say, what I'm about to say, which I don't usually like saying, but like, just focus on being in the moment. And literally, when you train yourself, which is what you have to do, to not go down the rabbit hole of future casting how hard something is going to be, then that will eliminate 80% of the problem, quite literally. Exactly what you're talking about. Like you're talking about the volleyball girls and conditioning tests that they had to do and they were getting ready for. And quite literally, they were running the test already. Like, that's part of their conditioning for the summer. So they were literally doing the test already. And they're all anxious about doing the test on test day. And you're like, you're literally doing the test now. Like, what are you worried about? Well, what if I don't make it? You've already made it. Like, you literally have done the test. So what do you like? You're literally building it in your head that you're not going to make it,
Right.
which increases the likelihood that you don't make it. And that's all that does. It's not because you don't have the capabilities. It's not because you can't do it. It's not because you're not smart enough. It's not because you're not athletic enough. It's because you have told yourself you can't do it, and therefore you didn't do it. That's a hard pill to swallow. So there's that part. Learn how to stop yourself from going down the spiral whenever you feel that happen. And everyone does it. I have trained myself enough at this point that for most things, I do a good job. If it's something new and I haven't done it yet, then it's definitely more challenging. It's like I have to stop myself from thinking about the thing. And part of that is trusting that you're prepared to just do it.
Yeah.
So that I think that people don't connect that dot is like, you don't trust that you're prepared. But if you take a second to like, am I really prepared? And if I'm not, like, what's the worst case scenario that actually happens?
Yeah.
Something's hard and I got to deal with it. Like,
Well, using the conditioning test is a great example because I had that conversation with the girls, one after we ran the conditioning test as a practice the week before, and everyone did great. And I just posed the question, like, did everyone work hard over the summer? Everyone raised their hand. Does everybody feel they got faster, stronger, better? Everyone raised their hand. So I was like, okay, great. What's the problem? So again, I understand me saying that takes time and effort to make that connection, and it's not going to happen overnight for sure. But I have been working on this as well, especially with working out because I work out all the time. So I think anytime I do a workout, like, why am I not doing X amount, or why am I in last place, or all of this stuff. So, but then I think, okay, I've been, doing all this other stuff. I know I can do it for today. I'm just, I don't know, a little bit slower today. It is what it is. Like, it's not, well, I'm not particularly training for anything, but I still want to push hard and do well. So even now that I'm making a conscious effort of, thinking about it, even just that thinking about it, and then maybe it still is like sitting in the back of my head, it's one step further to being better at it tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So even just being aware that it's happening, and we've talked about this in a lot of different situations, but I was very out of tune with emotion, feeling, and all of that stuff. So yes, during workouts, it is more apparent to me because I do it so often, and it's something I'm very comfortable with. It's something I know I want to push myself in. But then you just got to pull back and also think about all the work you did to get up to that point. Again, with the volleyball girls, like, they worked their butt off all summer. And then also realizing, like, for that workout in particular, and this goes back to the student athletes, why are we doing it in the first place? To be better volleyball players, to be better athletes in general. So yes, it's a conditioning test on that particular day. And yes, of course, we want you to push hard and do well, but you should want to push hard and do well every day, whether it's test day or not. So this added extra layer of test day should, now that I'm saying out loud, it probably feels like a game day. So maybe it's better that you often get tested or all this stuff, because we're putting the same amount of pressure that you would feel probably on a game day where you feel like you need to outperform or do all this stuff. But all the effort you put into practice every day, game day should be the easy day. That should just be fun. So if you, again, going back to trusting all the work you put in, trusting your skills, game days shouldn't cause anxiety. They should just be exciting. Like, oh, we finally worked, we've been working our butt off for the last 2 weeks in preseason. We finally get to play games. Like, that should be exciting. And again, that doesn't happen overnight, because you also, you make a mistake or whatever. And that is a whole nother question of how do I move on from making a mistake and things like that. But it all, I think, ultimately, when we're talking about the mental piece, is the more you can start becoming aware of when you get into those situations and just trying to change some sort of outcome different than what your natural intention is to be, like, would have been. So this workout is so hard. Like, oh wait, hold on. I usually say that, so I'm going to try to, you know what, I'm excited for this. And just doing that, even if maybe deep down you don't really believe it, the more you say it to yourself over time, you will. It takes time. So you just have to retrain yourself.
Facts. Yeah, that goes back to, this is the last thing I'll say about that. Well, that goes back to another quote that I think about a lot, that you don't rise to the level of your expectations, you fall to the level of your training. And that's why training should always be harder than the game, because the game, once you're playing the game should be easy, and you should just walk out and go. And game again can pertain to anything. It can pertain to all of life. Like once you have a project at work that you have to complete, all of the work that you've done up until that point, you should have done at a level that once that project needs to be complete, you should be able to just enjoy it and do it and knock it out of the park. So that goes with workouts, that goes with all kinds of different things. So that's why training is so important, because it prepares you for the time when something needs to happen, and it needs to happen. And then you're prepared to make it happen. We all think in our minds like, oh, I'll be able to perform well whenever I feel like performing well. I'm not going to worry about what's Allen Iverson clip whenever he's the
practice.
Playoff clip. Practice? We're talking about practice? We're talking about practice. We're talking about practice. Yes, Allen, that's why you never won a championship, is because you didn't take practice seriously, like when I think about that. So anyway, the other part of this is in the middle of a workout or a project or a game, when it is actually hard, which will always happen, then what do you do? Right? So there's first the future casting that we do. We think about something is going to be hard, and then we create a storm in our head, and then we just make it hard. The other reality is when something is hard, like now it's hard, now what do I do? And this is where I think you were just kind of talking about it. This is where you have improved the most, big time. Because I used to be the same way. So I see it in people more because I was the exact same. That's the reason I can say that, is when you are actually having a hard workout and your performance is not meeting the expectations that you have for yourself, and then you get pissed about it, and then your workout just deteriorates from there, right? Mm-hmm. That has happened to me too many times to count. And this is where you have improved significantly. And this is generally, I don't know if this is exactly what you're doing, but I think from what you've explained to me, or at least what I've done to help me, is when that happens, you can't let yourself think about what is left in the workout again. Number one, like, oh, now I have to keep doing all of the rest of this stuff that I have in front of me, and I'm already tired and it's already hard. You can't do that. And then you can't let yourself get caught in what has happened in the past, which is how hard it has been and how you have not met your expectations yet. So it literally goes back to what you are currently doing. What is the rep that you are currently completing, and how can you better complete that specific rep? Whether that is literally a rep, whether that is a run, whether that is an at-bat, whether that is typing up another sentence, no matter what it is. Like, don't worry about what has been, even if that was just 30 seconds ago when you were like, shit, this is hard. Let it go and just pull yourself back to right in this very moment. How do I take the very next step? How do I make the very next moment better than that moment I just had where I was like, shit, this sucks? Because if you keep going down that rabbit hole, it's going to continue to suck. And it's not going to get any better. So anyway.
I keep thinking about the Murph now.
That's it. That was the example I was going to use. So
I'll share, because then I think the outcome of us realizing that everyone was doing half anyway.
Half, and we were doing double.
So I am not the best at pull-ups, push-ups, moderate, and then squats. So if you guys know the Murph, it's a pretty popular workout that a lot of people do on Memorial Day, and there's a bunch of variations now. But you run a mile to do 300 squats, 200 push-ups, 100 pull-ups, and then you run a mile after that. So I think traditionally you're supposed to do it with a weighted vest, maybe one day. But so we did it for the first time this year, and we were, going through stuff, and I was way behind on pull-ups, as I knew that was going to be not probably, the hardest thing for me, for sure. And I was hell-bent on not going to inverted rows. Like, I was going to get all of my full range of motion push-ups, all my full range of motion pull-ups. So I have about like 35 pull-ups left. Jerry's already done. And the rest of everybody else in the gym, there's probably like, what, 30 people there?
Yeah,
they're all gone. They're already going on to their next
Mm-hmm.
run. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like,
Why am
I thought I was in shape, but clearly I'm not. Like, why am I the last person here trying to still got 35 pull-ups, which took me about 15 minutes because I was doing like a couple at a time. But when I get worked, I saw what was going. I was taking what was in my environment, and it was directly affecting my workout, which I ended up finishing. But I had to turn around and like go off to the side, because when I get worked up, I get like an actual like physical, like I'm like on the verge of crying, more out of frustration than sadness. It's more of just like I can start feeling like almost a little nauseous. And so I pulled myself off the side, and I just literally in my head was like, okay, I'm here doing it. This shit is hard. I've never done 100 pull-ups in one workout ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I just kept trying to tell myself, like, again, all those little chunks that got me to where I was. And then from those last 35 pull-ups, we did, I think, sets of 5. I had the band, and you were also helping me. And I just focused on getting 5, taking a break. Getting 5, taking a break. And again, it took me like 10, 15 minutes. People are already finished. They're drinking coffee, eating, and we're like, frick, we still got to run a whole nother mile after this. And Jerry luckily waited for me. But yeah, it was like, I just got so worked up because I was so worried. I think the biggest thing, I was worried about what everybody else thought about me. Like, oh, look at this girl. Like, what is she doing? One, no one was looking at me or gave an F about what I was doing. And 2, everyone knows that workout's hard. So I was, like he said at the beginning, like I was creating all of that stuff because of whatever expectation I set for myself. But anyway, we finished like we planned on. There was no question I wasn't finishing the workout, but it just took long. So we get back and we're stretching, and everyone's like, hey, good work, all this stuff. And they're like, yeah, did you guys split the reps?
Yeah.
We're like,
Say what?
What's split the reps? Like, you know,
Come again?
half? You what? So we were the only 2, I think, partner group that did all the reps individually. Everybody else I was so worried about finishing early, they'd only done half the reps. So I was like, so again, it's one of those things, like all of the anxiety and stuff I was building up in my head was totally
useless. Totally made up, literally. Yeah. Because what was actually happening around you was not what you...
Yeah, I was just perceiving what I thought, and then once I grasped onto it, like I said, it physically made me uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Anyway. So now I've gone through a couple other things with some injury stuff, and that's frustrating because I'm usually never injured, and I've had these things crop up. So that's the same sort of thing, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a cripple and like all this craziness. But so I think I've slowly gotten better at that as well. And just kind of like, all right, well, that sucks, but what can I do now? Like, I'm not going to be able to do this, so what can I do now? Like this weekend, I tweaked my hamstring and still finished the workout. I had to make some adjustments, but I still was going to finish the workout because that's important to me regardless. I want to finish and do what I need to. So I'm still keeping that quality and value that I hold really dearly, especially with workouts, is I still want to put whatever 100% is for that moment into that workout. And my hamstring was hurt, so it wasn't my true 100% or what I perceived to be my 100%, but it was for whatever I was feeling that time. So, yeah.
Sniper got you.
Yeah.
Pop.
First time ever. Of course, I was running. You and Kyle are like, "Oh, first time this week for us." So
yeah. Nope, haven't tweaked my hamstring this week yet. Nope, we're good.
So, yep.
All good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did great yesterday.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any more with this question?
No,
shockingly we got off on a tangent. Very weird.
I can't imagine. That is new. That is new.
So I think the biggest thing is mindset through tough workouts. That's
be present.
Yeah. And just
focus on the next rep.
Yeah. Understand what got you to where you were, and then if you need to change, move forward. But you're there, just put in whatever you have.
Yep.
Okay. Next question. I struggle with criticism and negative feedback from teammates and coaches. How can I learn to use that feedback? Go. This one's yours. I'll drink some coffee.
Brought to you by
Ronnie's Corner Market.
right in the old town of Covington. This small,
Covington.
right down there in old Covington.
Corner of a neighborhood.
A corner of a neighborhood in Covington. Yep. Sorry, Aaron. We can't remember exactly where it is. It's
I
right
got
there in
lost on the
Covington.
way. He was like, "Oh, we're just gonna go," and I'm like, "I have no idea where we are." And then we popped up in that one street that I was like, "Oh, I know where we are now."
Yeah.
About 10 minutes later.
Yeah, because there's only like 3,500 streets in Covington.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Anyway, but you
when
should
you
go to
find
Ronnie's
it, when
Market.
you find it, you'll enjoy it. Okay. How do I deal with it?
Struggling with negative feedback and criticism.
Right. So, lots of layers to this one as well. Number one, part of the problem is we live in a society where society tells us that things should be easy and that people should just be, they're going to be teddy bears to you and that's the way it's going to be. And if someone says something mean to you, then, they're just a bad person and that's blah, 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 blah. All of that is false. If anybody has ever told you that in your life, that's false. They're lying to you. The world is not fair. Things do not go the way that you expect them to. When you try, you will fail. You will only ultimately fail if you give up. But when you try, you'll fall flat on your face. You'll get up and life's going to laugh at you and go, ha, look, your tooth's missing, and then punch you again and then knock another tooth out. And then, whatever. And then your boss is going to say something mean to you and you're like, oh, that's mean. And then it's like, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so part of the problem is we have come to expect that everything is just going to be everything that everyone says to us should be nice in a nice kind of manner. The problem is most of what is said to us, even in a negative manner, or I would say especially in a negative manner, is probably true. But we don't want to look at it because it is either said in a way that we don't understand, which I understand. And if it's a spouse or a coach or a teacher, like they need to know how to talk to you. But on the other end of that, you need to understand that there's usually truth in almost every bit of feedback that is said to you. And especially the ones that get you worked up. Because those are typically the things that you dislike the most about yourself, or that need the most work about yourself, but you're not willing to confront it. So I personally, and I know most people don't think this way, but I personally do not view negative and positive feedback. I just see feedback. Like in my mind, that's all that I see. If someone says something to me about anything, anything, like when I'm talking to somebody and they're like, this is the way it needs to be, sorry to be so direct. Why would you apologize? I just had this conversation, with one of our new employees the other day. She's telling me like all these things she thinks we need to work on. And she's like, sorry, I keep telling you these things. I'm like, why are you apologizing? We can't improve stuff unless we know what to improve. And so, if you are a person, especially like if you're an athlete in a sport, then you need to improve. That's just the fact of the matter. If you are a human, you need to improve. That is just the fact of the matter. It doesn't make you broken. It doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make you evil. It doesn't make you anything like that. It just makes you human. Welcome to the experience of being human. It is just continuously getting better. So I guess my challenge would be, or the thing that should come out of that is anything that anybody says to you, work to just see it as feedback. And parse apart what is just maybe someone being belligerent and just saying belligerent things. If you can learn to take something constructive out of a belligerent person, then you've mastered this ability. Because that's the hard part. Because you're like, oh, well, you're just angry. You could just justify. They're just angry at me. They're just yelling at me. So they don't mean anything that they say. Well, there's usually truth in those outbursts. So if you can figure out a way to find usefulness out of those kind of moments when someone is just like giving you quote negative feedback that feels hard. Then you've gotten to the point where you've mastered this ability. Because when it comes down to it, I would argue again, that's on us. Like, that's on us as individuals. Now, again, if you have a spouse or you have a coach or something like that, then you should say, hey, if you want me to be able to accept this better, here's how you can talk to me so that I can accept it better. And that's another conversation, but I'm assuming that it's not usually that way, and you're just trying to you're getting your feelings hurt because someone's saying something that's probably useful to you.
Yeah. So I think, especially talking about teams and coaches or team to team or spouses or most of those relationships, you develop some sort of fairly close. I guess what I'm trying to say is you typically will respect those people, and I think there's two pieces to this. So when you're giving feedback to each other, there needs to be a first underlying that you're respecting what they're saying, and they're probably saying it because they want you to be better, or they want you to see something that will then improve you in whatever way. They're not always, again, in these particular relationships, if it's someone random, you don't really know because you have to eventually earn that respect or figure out that relationship. But if you, like he's saying, if you perceive it as, okay, maybe they're not saying it the way that I particularly like, or maybe they're saying it one way, how can you pull out what they're ultimately trying to say? Because they're probably trying to just improve whatever they're talking about you. And I think the second piece is just personal ownership. So I think, like you were saying, a lot of times when we hear something, we are defensive or we don't take it well but deep down we probably know that's something we need to work on, or that's something we're not good at. So I think there's a level of personal ownership and understanding of yourself that, okay, yeah, maybe I am not good at that, or I do need to improve upon that. But a lot of times it's hard for us to accept because maybe we're perfectionists and we're like, we think we're good at everything. But in reality, the idea of if you're in a place where you think you're the best at everything, you're probably not in a good place. It's like
Facts.
if you're in a room and you're the smartest person in the room, you probably should find another room. It's the same thing on a team. I think a lot of people, especially freshmen coming into a college team where they're used to being the best player and they never get feedback because they're the top scorer and all of this stuff. Then they go to college and then everybody is the best person from their team and they're kind of knocked down a couple pegs. But if you can see that as an opportunity versus, oh, now I'm just like a bench warmer and I'm just going to sit over here and do nothing, then you're probably not going to do very well. So respect and personal ownership, respecting what that person is saying, and, based on how comfortable you are with them talking, like if the way that they communicate that to you, if it's constantly just rubbing you the wrong way and you're really struggling to get, then you just need to say something, which is another thing that most people aren't good at. We just kind of like move on and not talk about it. And then just taking ownership in what they're saying. So yeah, they keep telling me I'm not very fast. Maybe I take that as a cue. Oh, maybe I should put in the extra work, and that would be something that would improve my game, or that would be something that would improve, my fitness or whatever. So I think the personal ownership piece is a big part of the feedback because no one wants to hear what they're bad at.
Nope.
And honestly, if you're like going back, if you're constantly hearing like, oh, you're so good at this, you're so good at that, you're so good at, then like, where are you going? You're not
Sure.
gonna get any better. So
Sure.
getting feedback, and we're saying negative feedback or criticism, honestly is more productive than positive feedback.
It is productive.
Yeah.
Positive feedback is not productive feedback per se.
It's just someone saying something nice
Yeah.
to you.
Which we need. I think we all need. I get
Sure,
that. Like, I
sure.
totally get that for sure. I'm not saying that it's not helpful, but it's not productive. That's two different things, or
Yeah.
maybe I'm just making it two different things.
So that's why they always say, like, coach coach is always getting on me about this. Coach is always giving me on the back. And they always say like, well, when coach isn't giving you feedback, then I would be more concerned. Because at that point, they probably don't care anymore. They don't think you're able to grow anymore and all that stuff. I truly believe that. Like if you, or your attitude stinks and they just don't want to put the time and effort into you. And that could also be from your teammates as well, which is unfortunate that it would have to get that way. But you should also see the lack of feedback as something maybe you should evaluate on your own about yourself.
And I would say that's the same in the workplace, like same in many other areas of life as well, because in the workplace, there's a very strong mentality of, I'm just going to keep to myself. I'm just going to stay to myself. I'm not going to rock any boats, so on and so forth. And yet that same mindset, the person with that same mindset also wants to get paid more, be higher in the company or whatever. Well, you can't get paid more, be higher in the company and not rock boats. The only way to do it is to rock boats. But when you rock boats, you get negative feedback. You get feedback is the way that I would put it.
Yeah.
And I think that's again, just going back to the original point is my first question would be, what is your definition of negative feedback? I think for most people, it is simply people are telling me what's wrong with me.
Yeah. Right.
I don't have an answer for you then.
Right.
If you can't take that and use it, I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. I think it's agreed. I think any feedback, you should try to just see it as something that you need to improve on. And again, if it's coming from someone you respect, which hopefully if you're on a team, if you're in a relationship, you respect one another, then you should know it's coming from a good place. And maybe it doesn't sound the best, but it's the same as if someone texts you something and you're just perceiving it as a negative thing. But like if they were to say it to your face, you're like, oh, that sounds totally different than how I perceived your text. So everyone gives feedback in a different way, a different tone and all that stuff. Over time, you should learn that that's maybe just how they present it. And you either adjust how you are receiving it, take the nuggets that are important and move forward. Or if it's really just not working for you, then you have to say something, because that person might not know. And then just by you saying, hey, can you present it X, Y, and Z? And they'll be like, oh yeah, like that's just my natural tendency. But like they're most likely, again, if they respect what you're saying, and they will respect you for saying something versus just sitting back. So you're both getting a benefit out of it. The coach or the teammate moving forward is going to now approach the way they say things. But now both of you won't be afraid to say something, because that's the other problem is people don't say anything, and then the problem doesn't go away and no one gets better because you're just avoiding it.
Facts.
So feedback is just feedback, I think is.
That's the gist.
Okay. Last question.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How do I keep this one is very, I mean, they're all kind of sports, but this one's pretty sports specific. In the question itself, it will kind of manipulate it to me. How do I keep motivating myself when I'm not getting enough playing time? You want to share your personal stories first or mine?
You can go.
Okay.
I think it's probably more relatable because, well, maybe not. I don't know.
All right.
You can go.
So this one, I 100% totally understand. I haven't been in college athletics for a while, but when I did play college softball, I did not play a lot at all on the field. Practiced every day. I lifted every day. Worked my butt off every day. But I just didn't actually get a lot of playing time. And in the moment, especially early on, like I said, when you're a freshman going in, you have all these summer accolades, you hit all these home runs, you hit all this and that. And so you go in there thinking like, oh, I'm awesome, and all this stuff. You get knocked down pretty quickly. And it's how you take that and move forward is kind of what this question is saying. So, and you might not start out that way. You might start out playing your freshman year, you've got all, you did really well. And then the next year, someone better comes in and then they take your playing spot. That's tough too. So at that point, I think a big thing I tell my athletes all the time is you just got to know your role. So you were brought on to that. First of all, not a lot of people play college at any level, college sports. Right. So even just playing at that level, you should be proud of. regardless. You're also a student athlete, which means you're doing a plethora of other things while you're also playing a sport. So that's also something that you should be proud of. Um, when you are on a team, you, depending on what sport it is, I played on a team sport versus like swim and dive is more of an individual, track and field more of an individual thing. So I can only speak from the team spot. But when you are brought onto a team, you were recruited most likely for a reason, whether it's because you're an all-around good athlete, whether it's because you did have all of these, accolades or whatever, but you're on that team for a reason. But you have to understand your role on that new team you are now on might be a completely different role than what you are used to playing. So if your previous role was best player on the field, that new team you're on, that might not be your new role. So that was a really hard thing for me to understand. But once I figured out that even though my role had changed, I was still on that team. And then you have to understand that like that role is now what you need to be the best at. And that role might change year to year. That might role change week to week because you might get injured. Another person might transfer and now you have to go back in that spot. So that's an ongoing change. But understanding your role and then improving upon your role if it's not playing anymore is important. So does that happen overnight? Again, no. But understanding that you're there for a reason and that reason changes, that doesn't mean you put less effort into the new role. You just need to understand what that new role is and how can you be the best teammate you can be.
And I think that would go right along with being in, once you're an adult, quote unquote. I'm still like waiting for that point, that part in life to show up. At any rate, once you've gotten to that point, and there will be many times, and this, this is again a reason why today's society is so soft, because we're handed a lot of things. Life is very easy for people in especially the United States, but in westernized societies in general, life is easy in one sense, but certainly hard. Like life is hard. There are always two things correct at the same time. Life for us in the United States is easy. We don't have to work hard for food. We don't have to work too hard for shelter. You can go get shelter and food. Literally, if you're homeless, you can go live in a homeless shelter and get food every day, like in the United States. So with that, if you let yourself go down that road too much and grasp onto that, you become soft. That's just the way that it is. So because it is so easy, and because things are now we're at a point where literally we're told that everyone should win, which is not true. When things don't go our way, or when we're not winning, or whatever you want to put it as, when we're not put as number one, then we have a hard time with it. But that's going to be the case for most people most of the time, and for most of your life. Not because you suck, or maybe it is because you suck, but it's not because you as a human is not worthy as a human. It's just you're not worthy for that moment, or that you need more effort or something. There's something missing. So understanding that in the moment that you're in, if you feel like you're, in this case as an analogy, standing on the sidelines and life is just passing you by, you see all your friends doing well, everyone else is doing well. When you can bring yourself back to number one, what is going well for me right now? Because for damn sure there is something in your life that is going well. I'll give you a perfect example. In my own life, I have been blessed and cursed to be surrounded by people who are uber successful financially. My brother-in-law sold a company for 9 figures. My cousin sold a company for 9 figures. My other cousin, he was a druggie for most of his life, and now he's got a 7-figure company. So like, I'm just surrounded by this. And yet, well, Troy, of course, he's plenty healthy, but there's plenty. You look at other people who have things that you are striving to have, and you're like, oh, I want that, and I feel bad that I don't have that. But I have health, which a lot of people who are financially better off than me don't have. Most of which I would say don't have. They have their uber high levels of stress. Their relationships probably suck. They have terrible health. They have all this going on. I have health. I take care of myself. I know that I will outlive most of those people. So I can look at that and go, well, it feels like I'm standing on the sidelines right now when it comes to XYZ, but I also know that I'm doing pretty damn well over here. And I know that I'm progressing really well over here. So going back to your point, if we connect the two together, if you understand your role and what you're currently striving at or where you're currently improving, then you can focus on that for now. In a season, it may change. Next season, your role may change, but you have to be ready and willing to adapt when that time comes, because that time will come. And that's you just have to be adaptable as a human being to do that. When the time is right, you will need to become something different. And that may be tomorrow, that may be next month, that may be next year. You're going through that transformation right now as we speak. You went through that just last year in another kind of way. Went from athletic trainer for most of your career to being a strength coach. And now where you're building entrepreneurial tendencies inside of you, thanks to me. Anyway, so like we are all constantly changing and you can't fight the change unless it's being pushed on you, in which case, yeah, you'd fight the shit out of it. But when the time is called for you to do something different, it's on you to take personal responsibility to do that and fulfill that role as best as you can.
Right. So I think going off of what you said about being surrounded by people and then going back to the team atmosphere. So your role has now changed. You're not a starter anymore. Maybe you're not seeing any playing time, but your new role is maybe you're a new leader on the team. And just because you don't play, that doesn't mean you can't be a leader. But the other thing is maybe you do want to start, hey, the reason you're probably not playing is because there's other people that are better than you.
That's hard to swallow.
And one, you're on the same team. You should be excited because the people that are better should be playing. And if it's not you, then and you really do want to be that person, then you better start figuring out how to get better. And that is where you can use your teammates and your coaches to your advantage. You can go do the extra work. You can go do all of this other stuff to get better if you choose to do it. The other thing too is you might put all this extra time into getting better. People still might be better than you, and that sucks, but you just put a lot of effort in. You are a better athlete, but that still doesn't mean that you don't have a role on that team. By putting the effort in, other people will see that, and maybe now those people that were better from you are now even getting better because they see you training harder. In the long run, if you're on a team to be on a team, then you're probably doing better as a team, and that should be enough. Right? You know you're working hard. You're putting the effort in. You're feeling better. Your team is doing really well. Your team respects you because you're a leader. That's what I figured out eventually by my senior year. But when I was pretty much just like team cheer, I was academically one of the better on my team, and that was something I put pride into. I'm very good at time management. Teammates felt like they could talk to me. Those were all, yes, I wasn't playing and my batting percentage and all this stuff. And at first that bothered me, but then I was like, okay, I'm not putting my batting percentage on my resume. Like, that's just not how many home runs I hit. I'm not putting that on my resume. So that is looking at big picture. But at the moment, my role did change, and it wasn't because I wasn't playing in games, which stunk, but I still worked hard in the weight room. I still worked hard. Like, everyone knew I was a hard worker, and we were just looking at a scrapbook that I had, and almost everybody on there wrote something about my work ethic. And looking back on it, I'd rather have that. Like, I was a fantastic teammate than how many catches I made for game-winning whatevers. And yeah, in the moment of those games, they suck because I'm like, oh, I'm not playing. But now I'm cheering for my teammates. We just scored. We just hit a grand slam. I'm not like pouting because I'm not the one that hit a grand slam. So it is kind of going through all of this mental. It's all just how you're changing your mindset about what you're looking at. So the feedback, am I seeing that feedback as something that can improve myself? My role is now changed. Am I seeing that as something I can improve myself? Like, everything that comes at you, you're not going to be able to predict all the things that happen. And most of those things are not going to be, you're going to be better the next day. Each season, your batting average is going up. You're never going to be injured. Like, you can't predict what's going to happen. So for any positive or negative thing, however you perceive it to be, if you can take it and then learn from it, then you're winning. And it might not, again, it might not come as a blue ribbon or a medal, but you'll look back at those things that happened and you'll be able to relate them to real life things and be like, wow, yeah, I really learned from that. Not how fast you ran or whatever. So when I think about being a college athlete, I rarely think about, and I've asked teammates before, we rarely think about how many games we won in that season, or in, you know, we weren't an SEC softball team, so like I guess winning a world championship would probably be something I would remember. But most of the time, I bet if you even ask those athletes, they're not going to remember what the stats were from that game or leading up to that game. They're going to remember the moments that they had with their teammates. So going back to the personal ownership and then the respect, you need to be in a situation where you respect people, because you, just like they're going to expect you to be honest with them, you should want the same from them, even if it does come out as a criticism or as a negative feedback, because you're just trying to help each other get better.
That was you. What'd you? Your own podcast reel right there.
I'm not even sure what I just said.
That's what we call flow, is what just happened. Welcome to the entrepreneurial world, Cassie Ray. Welcome. Where am I?
It's happening. It's really hot.
I just got. At any rate. Yes, I would say moral of the story is take responsibility for your part in everything, and then take responsibility to make it different and to use it and to
learn and grow from it.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Summed up in 5 seconds. 50 minutes summed up in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. Take responsibility to share this with somebody that you know that needs to take responsibility.
That was nice.
Till next time.